What's up?
Yo.
What's up?
Sup.
Okay, I got the whole crew here. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yo.
Sammy's here, and we are gonna draw today Jackson Storm, right? From Cars 3. Here's the stuff that you need to do Jackson Storm. I've got some colored pencils. As you can see, Jackson is a lot of what, guys?
Black and blue. Squares and circles.
Oh, yes, actually, when we talk about the shapes, but let's talk about the colors you need first. Blacks, grays, purples, some blues. I know you guys grabbed some blues. Who has the blue? Oh, Omi has one of the blues.
There's a white first.
You can see there's some kind of purpley light, like magenta-ish colors in there too, as well as some orange in the headlights. So, okay, so feel free, whatever you have of that kind of those color schemes, grab those. And Omi's got a handful of her colors. So get those colors out of your colored pencil box and grab your paper. And let's get ready to draw. So Ammon, you kind of were talking a little bit about the shapes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what shapes did you see?
Circles, squares, and triangles. And triangles.
Yes, there are some triangles in there. Very good. So a little bit different than Captain Underpants, huh?
Yeah.
He was a lot more what?
Circles.
Yes, he was more circular, so a lot less angles in Captain Underpants. He was a very round character. This character, Storm, is very angular, so more squares, square-like shapes, rectangles, and a lot of angles. More angular character, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start looking at it, and you guys can follow along with me. Remember, it'll be a lot easier to follow along when it's just me one-on-one with you on the computer. I'm gonna start it here with the kids, and then we're gonna go over to the computer, and I'll draw it with you directly on the computer one-on-one and walk you through step by step, and then we'll come back and meet with everybody again, right guys?
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to tell you guys that today is our summer fest with
yeah.
It's our performance
Oh yeah,
at Summerfest.
that's right.
So Summerfest has like stuff there. It has like toys and it maybe has cotton candy there.
It does.
Yeah, there'll be cotton candy, yeah.
It's like carnival.
But what are you guys gonna be doing at this?
Oh,
Because you don't even know.
Yes, you're gonna be performing in the same show as Mom, right?
Yeah, and Naomi and Sam.
Yeah, so in case you guys didn't know, my wife Ashley their mother is a ballroom dancer. She's pretty famous. She's kind of a big deal, huh?
Yeah.
What was she on?
Dancing with the Stars.
Yes, Mommy
I'm
was.
not dancing tonight. Aaron was.
Oh, yes, Omi's not dancing tonight. She'll be dancing in the next one though, I'm sure. So yeah, Mom was in Dancing with the Stars. In fact, that's how we met. That's a whole other story. But you guys can go check out our vlog at the Costa Family vlog on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description box for this video if you want to learn about us as a family and who we are. And you can tune in because you can watch these guys dance, huh guys?
Yeah.
So that'll be up like tomorrow or the next day. The video of them dancing tonight. So, cool. Okay, well let's get to work on Jackson Storm and start on the shape. It's looking really good, Enoch. Omi, love it. Ammon, awesome. And we've got our outline. And look, don't get frustrated, right? This is fun and we're just having a good time. This is a lot more challenging than Captain Underpants. Circles are easier and more forgiving in drawing. So you have to have patience with yourself and just know that the sketch isn't exactly how it's gonna look. So we're gonna do the outline now and start coloring and check back in with you in a little bit. Okay guys, excited to have you along with me here one-on-one. We're gonna draw Jackson Storm. We're gonna put our reference in the top right-hand corner and we're gonna get started on the picture. So remember what we said about how it's a more angular picture. It doesn't have a lot of circles like someone like Captain Underpants does. So we're going to be dealing with rectangles and squares and a lot of angles. So the first shape's going to start out kind of like a rectangle. It's actually a quadrangle. It's going to have a one side that goes down and to the right. You see that? It's a really light. Remember, we're in sketch phase here. and we're going to slope downward to the right. And then we're going to add another rectangle that has kind of a check mark. So from the top right-hand corner, we're going to do a little check mark there, and then the bottom of the rectangle or quadrangle will go back and up. Okay, so you've got those two shapes. Now we're going to add that fin in really quick and just sketch that in there, his back fin, and then the hood of the car. Now, the hood of the car where his eyes go, the center of that almost needs to be right over that little check mark. The second box, see the left corner, and there, right in the middle. And then we're going to drop the hood in, and you'll see we'll do a little line across to make a triangle, and then across the front, and then another line down, and then you'll do a line down across the front to make the front end of the fender, and then you're going to do a curved line over that triangle, and then we're going to do another curved line over that other triangle point on that other box. And that gives us pretty much the outline for the front fender of Jackson. You want to make sure things are kind of lined up, and then go ahead and drop a line down from each corner of those triangles. You got those? Okay. Then we're going to do the wheels of the car. You do these kind of curved lines to map where the wheels are. And those are going to be kind of in the center of those triangles, and the other one there in the back. It's just going to go down kind of like a backwards J, or upside down J. All right. So now, let's look. I'm just going to kind of touch up some of the curves here and make sure these lines are right. Get the back end of the hood. And you can kind of see that we're adding some curves. There's a little triangle at the end of the fin. Okay, and then we're going to look at the contours of the back of the car here. And as we move around the back of the car, you can see he's got this S sort of shape in the back for Storm. So we want to have a curving line that goes down and then to the left, right at the base of the car. And then we're going to move over to the windshield. And it's just kind of a box within the top of the car. And make sure that when you come down, the windshield comes right over the center of that tire. So the back side of the windshield where his eyes go comes over the center of the round, where the round tire is going to be. That'll help to make sure your proportion's right. So check to see that your drawing is doing that. And then your eyelids, the center of those eyelids come together around the center of the windshield. And then you can drop in the eyes in the center of that. And that right eye will be right in front of that point of that triangle. So that's how you know you're getting that proportion right as well. Okay. So now let's move over to the wheel. I feel like adding a little circle in here now. So we're going to go ahead and get the center of the wheel, kind of a circle within a circle. And that'll help to lay in that front tire. Now we'll do the back tire, the same thing. A little circle within that curve there. And then we're going to add the outline around the base of the car so that we can then drop in the bottom of the wheel. And we're going to drop in the bottom of the front wheel as well. And okay, perfect. And see how that tire is just below the center of the car, and we can add the front tire in as well. And we're starting to really get the outline of the car. If there's lines that you don't love or that seem a little bit too tall or slightly in the wrong place, you can make those adjustments now and tweak those curves as you go. All right, now we're looking at the front end, and I'm seeing the line across the front. And I'm getting ready to drop in the headlights. So let's clean up the hood and like kind of smooth those lines out a little bit. We've got the front fender right across and the hood there. I'm just kind of choosing which sketch lines that we've already drawn, which ones we want to keep, and making some of the lines curvier than they were before. I'm constantly kind of referring to my reference. Now, let's drop in the headlights. See how there's like a top triangle and then a triangle on the bottom. So, and they meet at that center point that line that we drew right across the front fender. And then we'll drop in the headlight on the left side. Again, triangle on the top, triangle on the bottom. I'll erase this part so you can kind of see that triangle there. And then get rid of some of those other interior lines. Don't be afraid to go in and erase the old lines that you don't need. You can see now, as we've been drawing, we really don't need some of those original frame lines that we drew from the original boxes. So some of those lines can go. Just make sure that you go in, and if they're distracting you, you erase them. If they're not a distraction though, feel free to leave them, because they'll disappear as you color over them, and because they're just, you know, sketch lines. So I'm going in, just erasing some of these, getting rid of any extra lines that I know aren't important for the end drawing. You can see this part of the box here that goes to the tire. We won't need that. We're not going to darken that when we do our outline. We just want those lines gone because they were only used to help us frame in the picture and make sure we got the proportion right and the perspective right. Okay, now let's drop in the mouth. We can kind of look where that's placed, and it's sort of like an upside down check mark there for the top of the mouth, and then a straight line across the bottom for the base of the mouth. And I'm pretty happy with how this outline looks, or the sketch looks. Now I think it'll be ready for us to go in and start outlining. Okay, so now, like I was saying, we're going to jump in and do the outline of Jackson. So get yourself a darker brush or a nice black color pencil or crayon, or even a dark blue or purple would work really nice. Okay, so you can see I'm deciding now of the sketch which lines I want to keep. So I went around the front, kind of got that curved fender, and you can start to really see clearly how the shape's going to work out. And now I'm going to go around and get the body of the car first before I jump in on those other wheels. So there's certain parts of the fender here that I want to be a little heavier, a little darker than others, so that the outline really pops for us, make it as cartoony as possible. So we're going to go up and around and just get the whole outline of the car over the back, and then get that rear end of the car. And if there's lines you want to accentuate too, like I wanted the car to kind of just stick out a little bit further there, so to kind of give it just a little more energy, a little more of a pop to it. So you can exaggerate lines that you want. Feel free to do that. My computer's a little bit choppy, so as you can see, I keep kind of pausing to redo it because it's making the lines a little bit choppy. So bear with me there. The processor is a little bit slow right now, I think, because of the hard drive I'm operating on. But now we've got, you can see the outline of the car. And then we'll go back and do the fin and outline the fin. And you can see there's a little triangle there on the end of the fin that now I'm going to add in to the drawing. It gets a little thinner as it goes up. And then there's a line down the middle. Okay, so let's jump in, and instead of the windshield, I'm going to move over and do the headlights first. So go ahead and darken up the triangles, the top and upside down triangle that you've got on there. And you can see there's sort of two sections to it. So, and then you can draw that line across the middle to separate the triangles. And we'll get those lines in there. And then let's go ahead and add some of those little details that you can see in the drawing, because we're going to drop different colors in to those sections. And again, if you get spots that overlap or lines you don't like, you can just go ahead and erase them real quick. Easier in Photoshop. Now the hood, and keep those lines lighter and thinner than the outline of the car, because you don't need to see those as strong. But when you go in and drop in color, you can kind of hide that. So there's the rear window or the side window, and we'll just get the outline now of the eyelids. And then I'm going to kind of skip around here and jump right into this wheelbase and do the interior circle. Feeling like some circles right now. And let's get in and get around that wheel on the inside, just to give it a little more depth. Okay, and I'm going to block it in. Yes. Alright, some contrast. See how that pops out when you add those dark shadows? And you look at the reference drawing, you can see where are the darkest shadows. Like I was telling Ammon and Enoch in the drawing that we were doing in person with them, you want to kind of squint at your reference to say, okay, where does it really pop out? Where's the darkest darks and the lightest lights? And you want to accentuate those in your drawing here. Okay, so going around the wheel, got that nice curve back by the S for Storm. And we're going to get that last curve around that front wheel. You can really see that shape and the contours are really starting to come out now. And then you've got that line that goes up around the S, and it's kind of got that darker side to it, so you want to accentuate that line a little bit. And over the fender. Okay, now let's look at the mouth. Remember that upside down check mark, but the bottom line is straight and curves down to meet it. Perfect. And then I added just that little line to go across the front because he's got those teeth. Let's go over to the eyes now and get those blocked in. Remember, they're not full circles, they're half circles. It's an important part of the observation there in this drawing. You don't want to have the eyes too big or full circles. You can only see half of the eyes. And then we're going to block those in. Now you can see there's black in the middle, and you leave white on the outsides around the pupils, and then we put some little white dots in there. Okay, I'm feeling good about this outline. Hope you're feeling great about yours too. Let's jump in and start in on color. So I'm going to add another layer here in Photoshop to drop in the color this time. Sometimes I don't, this time I will. And we're going to start out with some purples and grays. So grab your color pencils that you've got and your colors, and let's get started in on color. I'm just messing around with some layers here, and we're going to start out with the eyelids and do them as kind of a purple color. Now you want to make sure about your tones. As you go, you can touch up the lines too, but you want to make sure that your darkest darks and your lightest lights are kind of in line with the actual drawing. So you'll notice the eyelids are not quite the darkest thing on the page, like the lower part of the front end, but they are pretty dark. Okay, and you can see I dropped in sort of this base mid-tone purplish color. Now I'm going to block in some blue, and I am moving a little faster with the color, and feel free to kind of be a free spirit about the color. Don't get too stressed about it. You can always if you're laying down lighter colors at first, you can always go darker, and that's what I'd recommend doing, especially if you're using colored pencil or crayon. Start light, get a base layer, and then add more. But have fun with it. Heck, if you want to do different colors and try some different things, go for it. But I'm just going to block in color. One thing to know as well, you can see I'm going to do this sort of a light blue to get around the S. So you want to get around that outline with some light blue, and then find the other places where that same color exists and drop those in. So the light blue around the headlights and the light blue on the fin in the back. And while we're doing that, while we're dropping in the color tones, you can see the lighter colors where kind of there's highlights where the light, the sun, or the interior lights, wherever this car is, wherever Jackson is, it kind of touches on it. Go ahead and drop that in, block that in, and it'll help to make it pop a little bit. So I'm going to drop in some highlights, and then we're going to go in and and drop in some colors over it. So of course in Photoshop the coloring is going to be a little bit different. This, so you know, isn't the style I work in when I typically color if I'm doing illustrations in the style that I kind of do myself. I'll show you those in a different tutorial, but this is so that we can work together in sort of a manner that like you guys would be working if you had crayons or color pencils. You could do the same kind of method. Just block in your color, drop it in where you like it, and layer it on. So like I said, if you're working light, you start light with your lighter colors and then get darker and darker over it and layer it on. With lighter colors, sometimes you can drop on top. If you're using a gouache or some colored pencil, sometimes you can drop white over some of the other colors, but it's a lot harder. So it's easier to work from light to dark. In this case, in Photoshop, see here where I'm dropping in these light colors now. You may want to start with the lighter areas, so don't put the dark colors in too early when you're using crayons or color pencils. But you know, paints and other things that you'd layer color on, and you can have more opaque colors that are light. In that case, you can work dark to light or light to dark. So I'm just blocking in, again, just blocking in colors over. You can see the front end. This is one of the things I was talking to Ammon about when he was doing his. The front end below that center line, just above the mouth and down, is darker than most of the other part of the car. So the shadow there, when you squint at it, you can see that. So go ahead and keep that part dark as you go, and don't be afraid to kind of have that shadow be a little more intense than any other areas of the car. And then I'm going to drop in those highlights. So you saw this little thin line that I put as a highlight on the front end of the car where there was a black line before. With the pen, just over that you can add in a white area, and that's one of the reasons I said to the kids when we were doing it, I said to squint at the picture so that you can see the areas that are light and you can see the areas that are dark, and know not to put too dark color over where those big highlights are. And if you squint at it, where do you see those highlights? So the hood of the car, right? Where else? The teeth, the eyes, right? The whites around the eyes and the teeth, and then where else? You see it around the headlights, right? There's some shine on the headlights, but there's also, when you squint, one of the things you might not expect. It looks like those wheels, you think, oh, the wheels are dark, they're black, so you would just jump right into color in black. Well, that's not exactly right? You can see, look at the wheel again when you squint at it. There's a nice round highlight. So again, remember, illustration and drawing is all about observation. When you look closely there, you've got some highlights around those tires. So you want to make sure you include those, and the car will look, Jackson Storm will look just right. Now I'm going in and I'm kind of doing some blue highlight here around the S. And doing a little bit of that cross-hatching where there's some dark lines. Cross-hatching is just where you kind of lay one set of lines over another, perpendicular or at angles, and that's to kind of make that S pop. Now my S isn't exact, and yours doesn't need to be either. It just, as long as it's kind of gives that feeling, that curvy feeling of that S, you're just fine. I'm also going to drop in the 20. So you can draw that 20 with an outline if you want, or in this case, like what I'm doing, I'm just dropping it in some light colored paint. You can drop yours in light color pencil, or just color dark around the 20 and sketch it in. So I'm going to add some of those little sketchy lines to make that 20 on there pop out. And now I'm going to jump in and do, like we talked about, the dark of those tires. Now you can see what happens when they're all black. Like I said, it just doesn't look right. So what you want when you do it is to make sure you include the highlights, and that's what's really going to make the car look three-dimensional. It's going to make Jackson look like Jackson and not just a flat black color like that. So let's look at where those highlights are and drop them in, right? See, right around the edge, and another one around that bottom edge of the wheel, and it really kind of pops out. Now there's some yellows in there too, so be liberal with your colors. You can it's going to make the drawing look more fun when you add in those other highlights. Okay, same thing with the front tire. We're going to go in and see if it's all black. It looks flat. But if you go ahead in and add those highlights, instantly you've got a more three-dimensional looking character, and it looks like it really exists in space where there's light, and gives that 3D look. Okay, since we're still working on highlights, I'm going to block in the whites around the eyes, and then the sort of bluish, purplish color eyes that he has around the pupils. Now, notice this is important for any drawing that you do that's got a little more lifelike than just a straight cartoon. The eyes are not straight white, and the teeth aren't straight white either. If you look at that drawing, there's a little bit of gray in there, maybe a little bit of blue gray, purplish gray. Try and get that into the drawing as well, so that it doesn't stand out too much, if you like. Unless you like that look and you really want the eyes to pop and the teeth to pop, then what I would suggest doing there is just leave them white. But it'll accentuate. What I will leave straight white is the little whites of the eyes there, the highlight that's shining and glinting on the eyes that you can see. And I'm going to make sure everything else has a little bit of color. Okay, still on highlights, we're going to go over and do the hood of the car and get some of that orange and pink. Try and get that blocked in. Get a little bit over on the rear view or the side window, and just kind of get some of those highlights and do those little touch-ups. Okay, and we can't forget to get that bottom left tire. You can see that little bit of white there. Let's go ahead and block that in with some color. And that you can just make black because it kind of hides itself in shadow there. You really can't see it differentiate itself in the drawing from the front end of the fender. So, and then we'll do some smoothing out of the colors now here in Photoshop. We're going to do some more of the intense highlights, and in this case in Photoshop I'm just going to use this little pen tool so I can really define the area and lighten it up. In your case, if you've got crayons or colored pencils, grab a white and you can use that to lighten up your areas and give it more of a glossy shine. So you'll see what we're doing in here is just getting those really light highlights in. And I'm going to speed this section up as I move through. So feel free, if you need to pause as you're going. But I'm going to speed this up so you guys can kind of just watch the highlights fill in and some of the other touch-ups that I do that kind of will give it a little bit more of a shine and a little bit more of a three-dimensional effect and a glossy look to that paint coat that Jackson has. And where I've got, now I'm going to smooth some of it out too, where I've got those areas where the paint layers kind of blocked, look more blocky. Now I'm going to kind of blur them and smooth them out, and also add some additional layers at different opacities. That means it's how opaque the paint is. I'm going to add some sort of see-through coats of paint so that we can get a little bit more depth and a little bit of more of a smooth finish on the car. So just follow along with me. I'm just going to have some fun. You guys have some fun with the color too, and we'll see where we end up. Okay guys, we're back and we're done with the coloring.
Yep.
Ammon?
I'm not.
Oh, well, Enoch's just wrapping his up, but we're pretty much there. This is awesome. Ammon, do you love it?
Yeah.
What did you learn about it? What was hard? What was the hardest part?
The angles and the coloring.
The angles and the coloring, getting the angles just right?
Yeah.
And the coloring, getting the shadows just right? Well, you did a really good job and you learned a lot about contrast. Because you got that nice dark shadow underneath there, under his fender there. And then Omi, what was the hardest part for you? What did you learn? About colors? Well, you did really good. You learned about using color in addition to just black, right? And how to make it pop. That's awesome, Omi. It looks so good. Are you sad?
Sammy hurt me in the stomach.
Oh, okay. So off camera something happened, huh? Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna help Omi out. And Enoch,
I'm doing good.
yours is awesome. It looks like he's ready to just take off down the track. I love it. Beautiful job. Look at that color. That's so cool. I can help you a little bit with the eyes, but they look like they're popping already. You just need the outline around the pupils a little bit more, and they'll pop. Well, this was a really fun drawing. We all learned a lot. I hope you guys learned some new things too. Thanks guys for drawing with me. And thank you guys for drawing with us. And let us know your requests, let us know how you're liking the channel and what drawings you'd like to see next. I think we're gonna do something from Minions 3. No.
No, we're gonna do that guy from Despicable Me.
That's who I wanna do. I still wanna do Cruz Ramirez from Cars 3 too. So thank you for joining us. We've had tons of fun on this one. Next time we wanna do Despicable Me 3, right? The bad guy?
Yep.
Okay. And Drew. Okay, and we're gonna do more from Cars 3 as well. Let us know how you felt about it. Thumbs up, like the videos, and follow along with us by subscribing to the channel. So send us your versions of Jackson Storm so I can post those in our future videos. Thanks for joining us, thanks for subscribing, and we're having tons of fun with this. And if you wanna see how these guys do in their dance,
Film it, and
tonight.
it'll be on our vlog.
It'll be on the vlog. What's the vlog called?
Actually, Costa Family.
Yeah, the Costa family. That's us. Okay, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for joining.
See ya.
Subscribe button is click it. It'll keep you up to date on the newest drawings that are coming out and anything else that I'm working on. So stay tuned there. Thanks for subscribing and hope you enjoy the video.